That's
Board games, board games is what we're talking about. Board games and music. I'm not gonna shout. We are starting off this streaming with a bit of busy singing, but really, all the best tunes come from Jenem, who is in view. I'm not saying all the best tunes in the world. I'm not saying they're the absolute best tunes that you've ever heard, because that's building up the things too much. And I'm not going to build it up so much. But Jenem's a pretty awesome musician anyway. And I'm excited to have Jenem on today. Board games and music, it's what we're talking about. Board games and music, and we're not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever folk are. Oh my gosh, Dave turns up the music. Is that really loud now, or?
no, well, I can hear there's music, but it's not too loud on my side. So
Okay, great. Well, this is episode 364. I do apologise for anyone who's here because of Jenem, that the sound quality is maybe not as good as you're used to with all this stuff in the back. Today we are talking about life and games and music and creativity and influences and all sorts of things. And so thank you very much for being here, and good morning, River Dusty. It
Dusty,
is
hey.
lovely to see you. Thank you for joining in. And so, yes, I invited you on because I've been to your streams and I was like, oh, you're such a lovely, accomplished songwriter. You kind of make me smile, and it's kind of like look, the songs aren't about, like, they're just about nice things at the end of the day. They're just about, pleasant observations, like little things like you talked in your interview about skylines being about just a building, and yeah, like all these things you just putting words together with the boggle thing that you did last Friday, and that was really fun to see this morning when I caught up with it. But it's such an excitement to have you. And can you quickly introduce yourself for those who have no idea why you're here, who you are, and what kind of person you are?
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. Hello, everyone. My name is Jenem. Also, by the way, we just got a raid, so welcome, people. Welcome,
Oh my
raiders.
gosh!
To
Yes,
everyone.
I actually I will. Yeah, sorry. I do want to say hello, Karen. It is lovely to see you, and thank you, Matthew Johnson, for the raid. I want you to know it's appreciated. Maybe it's morning or bedtime. Either way, it's a meeting of minds. And Jenem is about to introduce herself and maybe talk about some games on the shelf. And then we will talk about music and stuff. And I hope that it's fun enough for you to stick around. Hello, and good hello to Nicholas and Zihark Sama, Matthew Dunstan, of course, and Xate. Thank you very much. And thank you to Josky Boy for following. And so, sorry for the interruption, Jenem, but
All
please
good.
do go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so like I said, my name is Jenem, and I am from Manchester, UK originally. And I'm a singer-songwriter, so as you heard from Bez's introduction before, I write tunes often on the fly as well, so I do a Let's Get Lyrical songwriting show here on Twitch, and just get inspiration really from, and we'll talk about this I'm sure more soon, but everyday life, and write songs about anything and everything really. Aside from writing as well, kind of delved into the world of production a lot more recently, and so I've produced some of the songs that I released, well, most of the songs I released last year were self-produced releases as well, and with that also did some DIY music videos and all sorts of things relating to the wider world of music and creating in that way.
And there's some lovely playlists on Jenem's YouTube channel if you want to check that out. I am hopefully. Oh, yes, it is working today. It wasn't working yesterday. And so please check out for sure the YouTube link there. And yeah, the Lockdown song, which is about, it's like a chill R&B song, kind of, with a
Mhm.
mixture of rap influences and acoustic vibes. It's just a lovely soulful thing. And of course, music is a big part of my life, but let's talk about what we've been listening to, what we've been enjoying, anything we've been playing right now. Let's talk quickly about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So, what
Right.
was the last game that you played, Jenem?
Oh, this is a hard one. Last game that I played was so on stream Boggle with the everyone on Friday. But outside of the stream, Bananagrams was the last one. I don't know if you've ever played that one, but it's one of my
Yeah,
personal favorites. It's a good one.
I'm a yeah. It's a definitely there's some really nice design choices in Bananagrams, and I've met Rena, who's quite responsible for the marketing and stuff, and lovely person. Um,
Nice,
I think their official title on their business card is Top Banana. True story.
nice.
I'm
Yeah, I like that.
sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I like the fact in the game they've used all the banana references. You've got like peel, split, and then the top banana thing if you win the game, which is great.
For sure, a little bit of theming does make a game better, and I mean, do you feel like you have to do that? I mean, I guess whether it's a game, whether it's a song, you want every word, every nuance, ideally, to be pushing you towards a particular direction. But I mean, having said that, on the other hand, you have within music the joy of improvising, because we'll get into this in a moment, but not everything has to be calculated to the nth degree. You can sometimes just come up with something. Not everything has to be mass produced. Sometimes you're just like, oh, that works out quite well. And you know, that song, when I was listening, what was it? Don't quote me on the lyrics, but I think I'm getting bossier.
Yeah.
From Friday's stream. And yeah, like there's just the syncopation and the way that you sang those lyrics. I was just really digging it. Talking about recent highlights, listening to that stream this morning, not just blowing smoke up your posterior, but genuinely, it was a fun thing to start the morning with. I'm trying to think. Yeah, recent events, let's say, is that there was really loud up on the front, so the back, even though there's possible rain coming down and music in the back, this is marginally better. And yeah, I made a nice meal yesterday. That's what's going to cite as a highlight. Very, very simple. It's actually, I don't know if you can even consider this cooking, but it was a tin of bamboo shoots and a tin of water chestnuts, which they've started having in my local supermarket, mixed in with some instant noodles. That's it. Just a couple of veg and instant noodles.
Bamboo shoots is an interesting one. I've never had that.
Have you never had bamboo shoot?
I don't think so, unless it's been in something that when I've eaten out. But yeah,
I mean,
I've never cooked it.
In a lot of Chinese cuisine, I know that. I think it might be used in that Asian Pacific region a lot more, but I love bamboo shoots and water chestnuts. I also love aubergines, but that's, you know, but yeah, those two ingredients, just some things for me just make pretty much anything better. Like if you're not having a soup, then put peanuts on it. I think anything that's not a soup, anything that's not a liquid or a drink, put peanuts on it and it becomes better, basically. Stew, put peanuts on it. You know, crisps, yeah, have some peanuts on the side. Chips, yeah, sure, put some peanuts on it. You're having nothing? Yeah, have some peanuts as a snack.
Always peanuts. I mean, I've got the three ingredients that are amazing, and everyone always tells me that I'm crazy for this, but beans, cheese, and pasta are amazing together. And if you've not tried it, it needs to happen.
Do you mean like tinned baked beans with the tomato sauce, so you keep that sugary sauce in it?
Yeah, you gotta have the sauce, otherwise it's not the same. But beans, cheese, and pasta.
Beans, says Dusty, and. Peanut soup sounds lovely, says Alex. Lovely to have you join us, Alex. Thank you very much. And bamboo shoots and peanut oil. For sure. If anyone else has any recent highlights that you wish to talk about, then feel free to throw them in. My recent games played, this is a really weird one. I'm trying to think what I even got up to yesterday. I played some games on Monday, but I already talked about that yesterday morning. Oh, of course, last night I streamed. And then I played 2 games of Micro Muckle. How could I forget about that? And I
Nice.
scored, I think, 14 points 3 times. And Alex beat me every single time with 15, 15, and N16. So Alex in the chat is just the most amazing wordsmith. So if you have another
Amazing.
Boggle thing on your stream, I think Alex will want to join in. And Alex, if you can do a shout out also to Jenem. But yeah, other than that, that's my recent games played. Let's go to the questionably quick questions. If you've got any silly questions, get them in right now in the next 2 minutes. So, first question, Jenem, where exactly are you? What time is it?
I'm in Cambridge, UK, and it is 10:11.
Great. It is the same time here where I am in London. Okay, do you know what a meeple is?
No.
Okay.
That was...
And J Foolsguard apparently really recently finished clearing an area from blackberry bushes in the garden yesterday. Well, congratulations. But what's your opinion on blackberry bushes, Jenem? Would you clear blackberry bushes in your garden, or would you leave them be?
I would leave
no
them
judgments
be.
on J Foolsguard. If you have a specific plan for your garden, then But I'm just thinking, I like blackberries.
Me too. I would like to make blackberry jam. I've never done that. I've never made jam, but I think that would be fun. So I would definitely keep the blackberry bushes with the hope of that being the case.
Okay. And we've got a question: 3x3, 4x4, or 5x5? I'm not entirely sure what this applies to.
Neither am I, but I'm going to go straight down the middle there and say 4x4.
4x4 is a good size for a boggle board, and on the other hand, I'm going to go with 5x5 because if it's a board that I've got in front of me, then you've got more options. There's more games you can play on a 5x5.
That's also true.
So Very Wrong asks squares or hexagons for the purpose of board games.
Ooh, hexagons, because, well, squares for board games, but hexagons just in general, because of bees and hexagons and the whole Manchester tie. Bees are everything.
Why do you say squares for board games?
I think it's just logically my brain, if I'm looking for words, if it's in a square, in some ways, I think I find that easier than if I was looking at any other shape.
So you're imagining a version of Boggle. This is your frame of reference, Boggle in a hexagonal board, where rather than having 8 neighbors, you've got 6 neighbors, and then you're wandering around.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that would probably confuse me more. Whereas squares work better for board games and for Boggle or anything else word game wise.
Yeah. For games that are about movements, the popular opinion is that hexagons are better because, you don't. Yeah, but for words, I could see an argument. J Foolsguard asks, mentions, you don't have to defend yourself, J Foolsguard. It's all good. Apparently, they overgrow the old apple trees and are thorny as heck. So, yeah. Chess or checkers?
Is checkers backgammon? Just to clarify that, or is it a different game?
Checkers is drafts.
Okay, drafts. Chess. Definitely chess. I feel like, the mental challenge of chess is great.
So then the question is, chess or backgammon?
Ooh, probably backgammon, just because of my experiences as a kid playing it. A bit more of a story there, but when I was on holiday, we used to play it against someone else who we met on holiday, and used to gamble his apartment with, if we won, we would get his apartment. So always backgammon.
And morning, Idol Michael. It is lovely to have you. What is one of your favourite games other than Boggle? Or Bananagrams.
Ooh. I mean, word games are always ones I like, but if I had to pick outside of those, I would go for Rummy Cup.
Ooh.
I'm thinking about like more traditional board games that I play. That would be probably top
One
of
of
the
the
list.
early Spiel des Jahres winners. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So Spiel des Jahres, it's like this really old prize. I think it started in someone reminds me, late 70s, early 80s, and then they've been giving awards to games every year, and it's like, this is the game of the year. That's literally what it means in German.
Ooh, cool. It's a great game.
So yeah, Alex bigs me up and says, "Oh, you like word games? Have you ever heard of the L deck?"
I learned about this morning, so now I am aware of it and excited about it too.
Excellent. And more shouts outs to Rummy Cubs. Do you like songs in languages you don't understand?
Yes, 100% yes. Especially, I mean, I've not really heard too many songs in a language that I don't understand a word of, but any language that I only know a few words, I absolutely love listening to music in, so like French, Spanish. And I'd love to listen to more kind of languages that I really don't know as well.
Do you have a preference for wood or plastic in a board game?
Wood. Yeah. Better build quality, more, well, it depends. You could argue this in different ways, but eco-friendly wise, unnecessary plastic, if you can replace it with wood and it's going to last longer, I'd say, and just be potentially more sustainable.
Yeah, I think that we really have a responsibility, whatever we do, to think about our impact on the world around us, especially as the world, we are like on the brink of climate kind of collapse, let alone climate chaos. But unless anyone else has any questionably quick questions right now, let's take that off and let's move on to the brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? And for today's brilliant thing, I thought that we could talk about something that we both engage in, which is creativity. And just, creativity, why is creativity brilliant? I just feel like it's a way that we express ourselves. It's a way that we can almost communicate to other people. Do you have anything to say about creativity?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's about expression. I think it's about being able to sort of, for me as well, I personally think it's like registering with your feelings and stuff and emotions, being able to get that out in a healthy way and in a way that, you get something from the way that you just go through everyday life, turning that into something tangible. And I guess in a slightly selfish way, leaving an impact on the world potentially and helping other people as well and sharing something with the world.
Okay, I don't know if this is too personal, but so I've gotten to the point where I've decided that I'm probably not going to have children. It's not that I can't, but I've just decided that I have other priorities. Do you know what I mean? Like from a selfish point of view, I would like to do a lot of traveling of the world. I would like my lasting impact to be my creative endeavors rather than children. And yeah, I was curious if you had any thoughts on children at all, or if you don't want to answer, please feel free.
No, you can ask me anything. Like I said before the stream, pretty much anything anyway. I mean, I'd like children one day, but I think the exciting thing about that is, even with them, it's like the idea of like, creativity and passing something down if that's something you want to do. But it doesn't have to be necessarily for like family ties as much as just the next generation of people. Creativity can come in all sorts of forms, and you could. I've always actually wanted to create a board game. If there was one thing I'd like to do outside of music in life, that would just be create a board game that's like one of the big board games. I mean, any board game in general, but like create a board game that then is played globally. Would be
so like
really
something
cool.
that really spreads is translated into so many languages that you can't speak.
Yeah, I think it would be amazing. Or something that could be played. Yeah, it could be played anywhere. So I guess definitely in that sense, languages that Yeah,
And
all sorts of languages.
I know, like Yoda in chat, friends of the show. I know that you have child and you are being creative with your own board games, and I'm not saying you need to do one or the other, but like for sure you can do both. I agree. It's just that is there a similar kind of sense of pride? That's kind of what I'm asking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
think it's always a question.
Alex says, having children has severely impacted my ability to be creative, but I wouldn't change it for a second. There you go. Now, I want to acknowledge, if you were to create a game, would you think about bamboo boards? And
Ooh, see,
I'm going to allow this final question. Would you prefer to make a game about koalas or pandas?
Ooh, that's a really hard one because I like both of those animals, but probably pandas. I've only ever pandas would be the one. I'm just going with pandas straight off the bat. But no, I would. Yeah, bamboo boards would be very interesting. I feel like I've seen a lot more bamboo in like shops, so bamboo plates, cups, and got a bamboo like a travel mug and stuff like that. And yeah, I definitely think it would be important to consider those things, depending on the game as well, though, because would it be a board game like with a board, or would it be a board game without an actual board? Questions that I can't answer at this point.
I mean, it's, for me, like, regular viewers of the stream will know that I'm privileged enough to have Yogi, which is like in 20 languages, which is bleeping amazing. Sorry, I sometimes self-censor myself, but I know I get close to swearing because of the intensity of emotion. Do you know what I mean? That's, I don't want to swear, but I like, it's super hyper mega amazing. But yeah, it's schwa. It's super hyper mega amazing. Anyway, but at the same time, there is the PVC cards, which it's like, what's going on with that? That's not exactly eco-friendly. And but yeah, let me move on to the main topic, which is all about Jenem. And let's start off from the beginning. We're going to talk about Jenem's upbringing, about what's happened earlier on in life. We're going to talk about getting into music, her relationship with games, the overlap in creativity between the two, and then we'll see how we get on. And feel free to comment, ask questions along the way, although maybe a wee bit more on topic with whatever the topic is, if that makes sense.
Can I just mention one more brilliant thing today? This is, I mean, it's not really an everyday thing, but this mug that I have currently drinking a cup of tea out of, the nose on the reindeer changes colour. And I know it's not like wintertime anymore, but it just makes me very happy. So when it's hot, it goes a different colour.
Is it red?
Yeah, it's red at the moment. It will slowly fade away. And I think it's normally black, and then it goes red when it's hot.
On screen it looks black.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's better. Yes. I think the light's just bad.
Okay.
There you go. A totally unnecessary but exciting, brilliant thing.
Yeah, heat sensitive things are pretty exciting and brilliant. I like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as it says, if you don't know who Jenem is, feel free to read some of the tickers that are going to go down. I've got some tickers to help describe Jenem and also to remind us of what questions we are roughly asking. So let's start off with childhood. What's the first memory that you want to share?
Musical or just memory in general?
Any memory.
Ooh, well, okay, so probably I've got sort of a couple. I think one memory that always makes me laugh when I think back to this, it's a bit of a silly thing, but back when I was in school, and it's what I call my light bulb moment, is when I was in reception class. So I guess for people who may not be in the UK, that's when I was probably about 5, maybe 4 or 5. And a light, like the cage around a light bulb, so some of the lights here have like cages around them, basically fell off the ceiling and fell on my head. And I think that was what triggered creativity in life as I know it. It was a
literal bang on the head.
Yeah, a literal bang on the head. I mean, thankfully I was absolutely fine. It wasn't like a heavy, like super heavy thing. It just
like light bulbs are fairly light, but Wow,
But
what's the
yeah,
story?
there you go.
And
I mean, strange one
thank,
to start with.
thank you very much for joining along, Colin Lim. But what came next? Do you have any early memories of songs that your parents would play, or songs that you were hearing, or indeed, because this is ostensibly a board game show, what was the first game that you ever remember?
Songs wise, yeah, I can remember that. So, I mean, my family are very encouraging of what I do, but they definitely weren't a musical. We weren't a musical household at all. Like, my parents don't play any instruments, grandparents don't play any instruments. No one's really musical in the family. So, apart from listening to a little bit of music, it wasn't really a heavy musical influence in the house. But I do remember being in the back of the car listening to my grandparents had a CD which was called like Family Favorites or something, and it had songs like The Good Ship Lollipop and what was that was one that was really good, The Laughing Policeman, or Post, was it Policeman I think it's called, and it just goes basically like ha 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 a million times, and it was a great song. So those are the kind of songs that I started on.
I need to check this out. The Laughing Policeman.
I'm sure it's called The Laughing Policeman. Yeah, I'll send you a link to the song. I'll have to find that. But the CD was amazing. Honestly, it was probably the best CD I've ever listened to. And yeah, that was kind of where my musical influence really started. I remember singing The Good Ship Lollipop. But I also remember, even from that sort of age, that I'd be writing like plays, and so it wasn't necessarily music, but I'd be sort of writing poetry, and I'd be writing like little plays to perform for the family. Whenever it was like, I don't know, a holiday, or even if it wasn't a holiday, I'd just one day kind of come up with my own little play and get everyone to sit down and watch. Those are kind of the early, more creative musical acting.
And very much based on lyricism, about words, and being creative with the written language in a not just journalistic manner, but in a more expressive manner.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely more. It was all very word based. Yeah, really. And same with the games though. So I don't remember kind of super early. I mean, I know I will have played some other games like early childhood, but not nothing that I can remember until the point where I started playing Boggle, really. And that was probably age around probably about 6 or 7 at the latest that I started playing Boggle. So that was where my competitive board game journey began, if you like. I always wanted to be Boggle champion. That was my plan when I was younger. If I could beat my mum and then also be Boggle champion, those were the two goals that I had.
What defined Boggle champion for you?
I mean, I wasn't Boggle champion, but I thought there would be like, you know how there's sort of tournaments for certain games, like chess tournaments, for example.
Yeah. I've not researched Boggle enough to know if there are. I'm sure there must be some championship somewhere. Have you investigated this? Have you kind of gone online delving into Boggle championships to see, can I raise my game?
I think I did do that when I was younger. I never found anything though, so it was a little bit disappointing. There was never like, oh, this is the competition I've got to work towards. But I mean, there probably is one still out there. Maybe one day. I think music kind of took over a little bit, and so my love of the game continued, but became less sort of my focus to be. That wasn't my entire reason for being, of becoming the Boggle champion of the world.
You can't dedicate your entire life to being a winner.
Exactly. Well, being a winner potentially, but not necessarily a winner in Boggle. But yeah.
Well, being a winner in terms of how you define the win condition of life. And Alex has given us a YouTube link. If people want to know, this is the YouTube link to the Laughing Policeman song, which I am going to listen to after this show.
What a song.
Wow. And for sure, Mind Sports Olympiad might have a Boggle thing, but it sounds like you don't want us to do a search for you. You're like, yeah, I'm happy just playing it casually. Those days of... And at the age of 15, you were already songwriting. You were already, performing and doing really accomplished songs from what I... Was that when you did Skylines when you were 15?
So Skyline wasn't when I was 15. No. So when I was about, I think it was 14 was my first release. And I did a charity single called Out Here, which you probably won't have heard me, but I don't really tend to play it on the stream anymore. I did an all original stream the other week where I did actually perform it. But I probably should start playing it a bit more because it's quite fun to kind of bring back some of the old songs. But yeah, it was called Out Here. It was based on the fact I was kind of traveling through Manchester every day to go to school. I went to school sort of quite far from where I was living. And it meant that I was seeing sort of the homeless situation in the streets of Manchester where there's loads of homeless people, and I wanted to do something to help. Being a school kid, there wasn't that much that I felt like I could do, but I did a charity single then and gave the money to like a company called The Big Issue who help the homeless. So that was kind of where I guess the first release stage of music started for me, and with the not just writing, because before that I had written some songs but I hadn't done anything with them, so that was probably the first real release or real songwriting, I guess, to an extent that I did.
But that's awesome, and to have the I think it shows the depth of passion to kind of do something at that age and to have it still. Thank you for making my words for me. One thing I wanted to touch upon is the nature of what is a game, right? Because for me, a game is basically a set of rules, and then you have to willingly agree to them, because it has to, if you are forced to do them, then that's like work or slavery. That's not a game. But and secondly, there has to be some feeling of agency. And I'm starting to feel like that's the only two things that you need to have to make a game. Like a set of rules that you've agreed to and you've definitely, even if it's only in your own mind. So then the question becomes, if we say that improv theatre is, if role-playing is a game, then improv theatre is a game, and is improvisation of music a game? Like, I guess it depends how formal the rules are. Like, do you feel a need to do, okay, I'm going to do these exact things, or is it just more a vague, hey, I will take any... Do you need to have a certain freedom of the rules to be able to allow yourself creativity?
It's a good question, and I think there's sort of two ways to see it. One is that there's always arguably certain rules within music that you probably subconsciously follow, even if not consciously. So even when you're improvising, for me, like, I know that chords, if I'm improvising, like doing everything on the spot, so chords, melody, and lyrics, like you do on those songwriting shows, chords-wise, I'm probably not going to be throwing all my creativity into that, and at the same time, all the creativity into the melody and lyrics. So there's definitely a sense of, well, I'm based within a key, I'm based within the chords within that key in general. So those are kind of, I guess, rules that already exist around the creation of the chord sequence. But then on the other hand, I'd say more, you could see it more as like with the, especially if I think more about the melody and lyrics on that side, I tend not to think of it as there's rules, because, but maybe this is just the bit that requires less thought. But yeah, it's kind of just taking words and doing it there on the spot without thinking too much. So maybe there are subconscious rules just like there are for the chords, but I'm just less aware of them. And so you could argue either way there, really.
I mean, I think for me for it to be an actual game, there has to be rules that are formally consciously agreed upon. Like, even if you thought of it in your mind, okay, I'm going to jump up and touch that leaf. And if I manage to touch that leaf, then I've won. If I haven't touched that leaf, then I don't win. That might go through your head in less than a second. And you might just be walking down the street, and then there's a leaf that for some reason it takes your fancy, and then you jump up, and then you don't quite manage to touch it. And like, oh, well, I lost, but that was a fun game. I enjoyed the jumping activity. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, I do think it's definitely a case of that there are at least subconscious rules. And actually think about it more when you were saying about the leaf, like even with the improvisation, I don't think, it's very rare that I think you'd sit down and completely something would be just totally, like, it is improvised, but completely improvised, where there's been no sort of, like, there's no thought or there's no like prior knowledge that's and knowledge that you could argue is rules, so like that chord base or that sort of
Even like a
theme or
rhyming
whatever it is.
structure. If
Yeah,
you've
exactly.
kind of decided, okay, this song is going to follow a typical A B B C C D D rhyming structure, then Alex talks about falling into familiar patterns and maybe saying, okay, this is a word, whether it's from Boggle or whether it's from people giving them into your chat, having those restrictions definitely breeds creativity. But then at the same time, you want to have the ability to say, okay, what rhymes with forlorn? Well, born and horn and sworn, and then, but maybe these are rhymes that you kind of use a sentence structure, and there's definitely a grammatical structure that, but these are then the unwritten rules, and so it's like, yeah, at what point does becoming conscious and aware of them, what point does it even have utility?
I think it's a valid and very good question. That's pretty hard to be kind of. This is the clear cut answer, because and it also depends on improvisation in general, and creativity can be. There's so many ways to go about improvising and creating if you're thinking just about music itself, and then each of those kind of ways of improvising are different, and would have their own set of arguably own set of rules. And so like melodies specifically, and like you said, rhyming, so within lyrics, that's a whole different maybe set of rules and structures that you'd follow. So yeah, hard to...
want to give a very quick shout out to 2 new followers. Can I Be Blue? I think that's Maya, who I know, and yeah, there was someone who I missed earlier on. I'm very sorry, but thank you for Colin Lim. There we go. But thank you very much for following. If I did miss you, I want to.
Oh no, go for it.
Oh, what were you about? Oh yeah, there. Hi ho, lovely, super overdue. Oh, it's all cool. I mean, yeah, I met this person in Essen, which spieled the biggest board games convention in the world in 2019, I want to say. It might have been 2018. It was definitely not last year because, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
unspoken.
You don't have to apologize. It's all good. And thank you for clearing up my date. I was actually about to go to Twitch streaming, which is as you have more, especially once you start having channel points rewards, right? Especially once you start doing Twitch kind of, this is how I'm playing this. There's some inherent rules. Do you think of this performance on Twitch as more of a game as opposed to, live busking? Because there's, people say, hey, do this, and then you've got to do it. Do you know what I mean?
I think you could describe it in that way, but it's not the way I tend to think about it, because I think also Twitch is, for me at least, is a different thing to the live, like busking side, for example, because it's a community on here. So part of the best thing about being on Twitch is actually it's more like having a conversation with people, obviously playing as well, but building that community, talking to people, and just having a general sense of, it's kind of, I see it more like you're sat around a campfire and then people are choosing songs and you're playing songs amongst the people in the in the campfire circle. So kind of a bit more kind of what's the right way to put it? I guess we're all just kind of like sat around and it's more relaxed. And then I feel like with a game there's a certain element of pressure potentially, and that because there's that desire to win, maybe not always with a game in my mind. When I think about playing games, I'm just extra competitive and I like to win, so I'd be thinking about that. But this is
it's interesting that you associate games specifically with winning, which I really don't. And congratulations on your first vaccination, and hello, aliens.
Hey, aliens.
Thank you for popping in. I don't think of games as necessarily being competitive. I think in a sense, there's three types of games. This is my current theory, that we've got games which are about beating the other person, strategizing, and outperforming. We've got games that are about self-expression, like role-playing, and if you know it, Rory Story Cubes or Phrasal, my own game, where you put down a bunch of cards and then it's got four letters because you use two cards, and it's like, okay, if you've got AP and IC, what phrase can you make? And that would be I can eat penguins, which isn't now I'm kind of thinking in horror, unless I'm thinking of Penguins the chocolate bar in the UK, of course, which it's like, what have I just uttered? And that's the kind of thing. But that's a game about self-expression, like role-playing games where some people play Dungeons and Dragons very much from the performance beating side because it started off as a war game, but then finally you've got games as moments, like as just the tumble of the dice, as relishing the way that gravity works on the Jenga tower, or that friction works on Bamboleo, which I don't know if you know this one. You've got a board and then it's balanced on a cork, and because the cork has such a high coefficient of friction, it can go at crazy angles that you wouldn't think is possible. And why is it not slipping off? And it's like, what's going on? And so just that joy of the action. And I think these are three valid reasons and games don't have to have all three. You can have games where there is no win state. And so it's interesting that you think of games just as those that have the win states, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think there's kind of like a few sides to it. I can totally see that there's more than one type of game, definitely. I think maybe just more when I think about games, and I guess relating back to like growing up as well. Like I grew up in kind of a competitive family in many ways. So if we were playing a game, it was always who's going to win the game. And from an early age, you know how you're meant to like let your children win at games when they're young, so they get a bit of confidence and stuff. That never happened. No, it was you lost. Sorry, like you might be 3, but you weren't good enough. But not in like a harsh way, just in a fun way. But I think that's where I guess the competitive nature came from. But I totally understand that there's like games are more than just kind of one type and just the winning aspect. And I also think if I was to get super philosophical, you could get quite into this where arguably the whole of our lives is a game if you see it.
Well, I would say no, because firstly I want to agree with the shout out to Hanabi. I don't know if you are familiar with this game.
I'm not, no. But
so in Hanabi, I believe this was designed by Antoine Bauza in the early 21st century, and that's bygone era, 21st century. It's kind of crazy. We're already 21% of the way through the 21st century. Anyway, so you've got these cards. You've got to play them as a group in a particular order, but you can't see your own cards. You can only see everyone else's cards. So what happens is that on your turn, you can either give someone a clue, like say, okay, here are all your red cards, or here are all your number ones. You've got to tell them everything that matches one number or a color, or you can lay one of your cards. And if that color card is the next one that was meant to go in that sequence, then boom, you kind of are getting closer to doing well as a group. And if it's wrong, then and of course you've got limited clues, because otherwise it wouldn't be an interesting game. You have to play cards before you can get more clues. But yeah, and thanks for the notes, Hannah. Lovely to have you with us. And regarding life being a game, I strongly disagree. So I think I said decades ago, life is a toy with which we play, and then we make up rules, and then it's a game. But that's the thing. I think those rules have to be decided consciously. That's the important thing. And within life, we don't really... I kind of disagree with my past self. I can't remember whether it was me trying to do some poetry or song or whatever, But I disagree strongly with my past self because, um, yeah, firstly, if there are rules, if there is a win condition, everyone has to make that up for themselves. Secondly, the way that life operates is dictated to us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can totally see that in that like the rules are maybe are arguably not set. So if you think that in order for it to count that you've chosen the rules, I guess, or that you've agreed to the rules, whereas life, you don't necessarily agree to it. But I also think on the aspect of like role play and stuff, that if you think role play is counting as that's, that's a game in itself, well, really, I can like one day when I talked about kind of streaming as well, I don't see it entirely as this. I am obviously putting myself into the streams and stuff, but arguably as well I'm thinking more from just if I'm looking at it more from a philosophical standpoint, then I would say that like everything you do is taking on a role. So like streaming, that's one role that you play in life. We're kind of just this is getting super deep into, I guess, the philosophical side of
I
things, which I
mean,
don't tend to
I'm
talk about, but
enjoying this discussion, and I hope that's other people too, if you are happy to go along with this.
yeah, as long as I'm not kind of boring people with this kind of deeper discussion. But yeah, I think it's like that we're all kind of we're born, we go through life, and through that we kind of play different roles and we do different things, but we're just this mass of being and energy that moves through life doing these various things. And therefore, arguably, the role play side is that are we just playing this game of doing
I
these
think
roles?
the other thing is that games you have to be able to stop. And a quick hello to Runa. It is lovely to see you as always. And aliens, please abduct me. Says life is like whose line is it anyway? But I think this is a key thing because if you were playing whose line is it anyway, okay, firstly, if you are doing something for money or you're doing something, I think that it makes it less of a game. And I'm going to ascribe to Jeff Engelstein's fuzzy logic theory here. Because Jeff Engelstein said, okay, let's imagine we're saying, are you tall or are you not tall? And there's no binary there. It's not like you're definitely tall or you're definitely not tall. And now, maybe for some people, if you're 2 meters tall, then you're 70% tall and you're pretty tall. But if someone who's like 2 meters 10 asks you, oh, is that other person tall? You'd say, well, they are tall, but are not as tall as you. So you'd have some caveats. And it's kind of this fuzzy logic of, firstly, what makes this quality, what makes a game can be different to everyone, what makes music can be different to everyone, what makes something fun can be different to everyone. But then also the other thing is it's not like it is a game or it's not a game, or this is music or it's not music. It's just that it's a bit more life or it's a bit less life or it's a bit more music, or do you know what I mean? And I think that once you start doing things for money, like those contestants are on whose line is it anyway, there's a real world repercussion to quitting the game. And so to me, that makes it a bit less of a game because you're not freely able to say, you know what, I'm going to quit. And that freedom to stop playing, I think, is also an important part of what a game is. And that voluntary nature of it. Because I mean, in a sense, life should be more like a game. And this brings me to universal basic income. Sorry to get philosophical, but if we have universal basic income, then all our actions, and this covers our barest, if this is enough to at least pay for our rent and our vital necessities, cover our heating in winter so we're not going to die, that we're able to buy clothes when we need to, not expensive clothes, but even just being able to go to the charity shop and buy a jumper so that we're not freezing ourselves in winter, if you know what I mean. And then paying rent and food. If universal basic income was existing and could do that, then the question becomes, what do you do with the rest of your life? Because then work, it is in a sense more voluntary because you could quit. and it's not got this great, well, if you stop, then you're not going to be able to survive and eat. And people have
Yeah.
said that you're more creative when there's not this pressure of you need to do this thing or you're going to be fired hanging over you.
Yeah, no, I totally see that as well. I think that's an interesting way to look at it too. And but then I also think when you get to the kind of thinking about like what you do for a living and also then what you do outside of that, this is where things I think start to get blurry if you work in a creative field where aside from the kind of basic income, like moving on to I guess a different topic here really, but the fact that yeah, like where's the line between, and this is something I actually think already in life that I'm sometimes find a bit hard to kind of draw in that, and that is it's weird having a conversation with people who aren't musicians, or well, not weird having a conversation with people who aren't musicians, but especially I find myself when I'm talking to people who don't really have any sort of creative industry like job, that sometimes I find myself I'll happily talk about what I do at the weekend, in the evening, all the time, because that's the way my thought process is, always thinking about music, creativity, those topics. But then some people work is work, and then their time outside of that is like a clear line. So I think that's a whole different topic, but an interesting one in itself. And that where's the like line between what you do for work and what you do for enjoyment and
that's a thing. Yeah, Alien says we are all born dreaming, but life tries to tear us down.
Quoting one of my songs there. Thanks, Aliens.
And the made-up rules dictate that the points do matter. And how will corporation, or I assume you meant corporations, how will corporations get cheap labor if no one needs to work in poor conditions to stay alive? Oh my gosh, how horrible for those big, massive corporations. But genuinely, that's the thing. Like, if no one had to work in retail, honestly, yeah, things in a world with universal basic income, where the universal basic income was tied to what you actually need to pay the rent, to have food, something that you could actually survive and not like go out clubbing or whatever, but at least, you know, spend a few quid on food each day. And do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Then, like, imagine how many people would actually want to work in retail. Maybe some people really do. I'm not against working in retail, but I just know that back in the past when I said, you know what, I would really like to work 3 or 4 days a week, and they said, no, you can't do that because maybe other people want to do that as well. And we can't have everyone doing that. And I said, well, why not? Why can't you have everyone doing that who wants to and hire more people? And they said, no, it's too much work for us. And they didn't say it in those exact words, but that's basically what they said, if you know what I mean. And it's like, well, that's not cool. You're kind of anyway. Runa says, I would very much like to work, even if I'm certain of the income. I assume this is what you mean, Runa. Like, even if you had UBI, you would still be wanting to be productive and you would want to contribute. And for sure, I know that feeling. I'm the same. But Runa knows that they don't function as other people. Like, they don't function the same way, so they're not able to work in the current society and situation. And that's the thing, like, some people really want to work, and it's, but yeah, and yeah, corporations, bleep, I need to think of a better word. Bleeping, bleep, 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 yep. Anyway, I try to keep this show family friendly, so lots of people in the bottom of the pile actually spend so much time trying to figure out what to eat next or when to buy or not buy clothes. They don't have the mind space to think about working. I kind of get that. And the truth is that you need, I mean, Terry Pratchett said the whole thing about, I mean, there's that wee bits in the book about shoes. Like, if you buying it, being able to buy expensive stuff, if you've got money brings about money. It's just the way it is. Like, let's say you have £1 million, you basically don't need to work for the rest of your life. You've basically got that security net. You could live off that. You could basically stick it in a bank or something and live off the interest. You know what I mean? Maybe not a bank these days, but one of those. There's some. That's the thing. Yes, it's expensive to be poor. Do you have anything else to say about this topic before we move on?
Probably not really. I feel like we've kind of covered it. It's just I think we've covered it really in terms of what I would say on the matter as well.
Yeah. I'm so glad I'm not at the front because maybe you can start hearing the distant. I don't know if you can hear this saw.
It's a musical sound. Just got to sample it and turn it add to the theme song that you do at the start with a little and then go into the word game song.
And I totally 100% get it. It's really, my mind doesn't work quite that way, but I can understand that. And there's been studies done, Jenem. I'm sure you're familiar with this, where people are worse at performing, at being creative, if it's a purely, run from A to B, or put something over, if it's how much muscle energy do you do, but when it's about your neurons trying to create connections and trying to do some creative problem solving, things become worse when your living depends on it. So in a way, that's now moving back to music. That's a question for you. How do you keep yourself creative despite it is at this point your sole method of income?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it is, but it's in my mind. So I've got different things that are contributing to that. So I teach guitar lessons at the moment, and that's since the pandemic. But before the pandemic, things were pretty different. I was doing entirely music, but most of that was going out gigging and busking, cover gigs with that sort of method of it is stretching time. It's a nice view of the sky. Looks so blue where you are as well. Actually, it's quite blue here today.
Yeah, it really is. We're blessed.
But I was saying so that was kind of, I guess, where things were that was in my mind. If I was doing a cover gig where I was just playing covers and not doing any original music, and people were all just drunk, and it wasn't really exactly necessarily the kind of best gig in the world. That was the work side of things. But even then, it was all super enjoyable, so it's not really work. And now that's become the teaching side of things, because I've had to find other ways to go about things. When you got to rent, you got to work your way around things. But it's to me that those are the work side, and then I do production and songwriting and everything and all the time around that, and that's the non-work side of things, because that's the bit that I'm doing where I'm not getting income from it necessarily. I mean, hopefully, the idea is you can transfer that at some point, but if it's not happening right now, it doesn't matter, because it's enjoyment. And I just can't imagine not doing that, if that makes any sense as well.
No, it does. I'm very much the same. I went through this thing back in 2018 where, there was the death of a friend, and then back in December there was the death of another friend, and I just got this news on my phone, and I was oh shit. And then then that distracted me, and then my laptop got stolen while I was 2 meters away, literally, which was really, really annoying. And then I lost all my data because I hadn't backed it up, and I lost a lot of work that I'd done with stuff, and there's still some games that I'm not going to remember, or bits of it might come back, do you know what I mean? But and I actually got some of the PDFs from other people who had downloaded it because I'd sent them out, oh, thank you very much for that. And now I'm getting Chris to turn those into something that I can edit again. So those are going to, but yeah, anyway, when I went through that, I went through the, okay, am I going to carry on working in board games? Because this is such a killer and like a motivation killer to have suddenly lost so much work. Do you know what I mean? To have lost all this stuff. And then I realized, yes, this is my passion. And for me, I think that I need to kind of cordon off bits to say, yes, here I am doing consultation for someone. Here I'm doing development for someone. Here, okay, I'm doing games that I actually believe have a potential to, make some serious income. And here I'm involved with games because I just love it. And people will notice that, I'm not Twitch affiliates. That's been a conscious decision because I was very much turned off by the fact that you can't multi-stream, which I like doing because it kind of opens it up to Facebook and YouTube if you do that. But yeah, also part of me was, okay, do I do this? And part of me is also turned off by the fact that, yeah, I have to have people watching adverts. Like, I can't turn that off. Sometimes they throw in adverts when you might want them to be watching you. Do you know what I mean? And then part of me is turned off by, and this is probably the smallest part of it, but part of me does worry if I was getting people subscribing, if I was to get people paying me money for whatever reason for this Twitch, would that then change my relationship with it, where now it's an obligation? Now I have to do it because, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And would that then make me enjoy it less? Would it make me start to resent it? Because I think it's important, even within my own game creation, there's a couple of games, Wee Whimsical Creatures and Plus. I'm going to release them at some point, but just as a print-on-demand thing where I'm not expecting to even earn money from it, where it's just, I want to get this out in the world. But then there's, do you know what I mean? Do you feel like that same sense to compartmentalize? How do you ensure that money doesn't change the enjoyment?
See, that one, so with Twitch is slightly different, and I'll mention that a bit more in a second. But in general, I can understand that is sometimes a challenge, especially, I think that's a challenge when it comes to, sometimes if I sit back and think, this is like, I'm doing music full time, it's great. And then if it's a month where things have been less good, things were going good, and then, starting to build, and then pandemic, and I was left thinking, I've got however many months left on my rent. I was living in London. I've got no income. What am I going to do? And I think that was that was the first moment where I felt like, oh man, like if I'd have just, have like a so-called quote unquote normal job, or just something a bit more stable, arguably, then, these things maybe, and then just, you can do your creativity. There's no pressure there, but you've not got to worry about the rent side. But then, I think that's one place where I actually thought about it. But now I've just tried to, it is really about compartmentalizing things. So I really see it as like lessons at the end of the day. I mean, I'm very happy to kind of educate young minds and help people and stuff like that. No, I do like genuinely sharing knowledge is always, it's good to be able to hopefully help people get into music, because without people investing their time in helping me get into music, I would never, people teaching me things about it, I would never be where I am now. So that side is good, but at the same time, it's not a passion. It's not like a true passion. It's just I need a roof over my head. I need to do something in order to sustain that. So I kind of have very much like compartmentalized that part in my brain. I think with Twitch, it's an interesting one because I never expected it to be something that could contribute to also helping with that. But it's something that I enjoy so much, and I'm truly, truly grateful for the fact that it does contribute towards being able to then make sure the bills are paid and stuff like that. So Twitch is in between, because it's super enjoyable, and that side is never affected like on months where things aren't going as well necessarily on that side, because it's not something I can necessarily say 1 month is gonna be like this on Twitch and 1 month's gonna be like this. Every month is different, and I'm just grateful for the fact that it does somewhat help with that side of things, and at the same time I can do it and enjoy it and use it as a creative outlet. So I try and see it as a chance to just further my creativity, further what I do as a craft as well. So on days when I don't feel, I mean, there's always days when you don't feel necessarily as much like you want to stream, but there's maybe you're a bit tired and you're just thinking, I kind of want a day of just chilling. And I guess there is no obligation. You could turn around and say, I'm not going to do this. But then anytime I feel like that, I try and make sure I still go on and stream, because one, it makes me feel better. I always feel more creative after a stream, more energized because of the people on here. But also, I think the second thing is it's important to kind of push yourself. And the Friday stream's really a good chance for that. But it's like, if I'm not feeling creative, I'll make sure I'm still doing that stream, because that's really going to, get my brain to kind of push myself a little bit on that creativity side of stuff.
Like, I definitely find there's a rush when you're improvising in front of an audience, when there's, people chatting along. And speaking of which, I will catch up with the chats a wee bit. Because there have been some really interesting stuff. I agree with Alex. The idea that you must be able to work in order for your basic needs to be met is kind of mind-boggling. I would call it messed up, personally. But thank you, aliens, for following. I appreciate that. Colin says, the real problem when someone in poor status is the whole circumstances. Just can't find money. Only cheap labor can keep them from starving. Yeah, because you're stuck in this vicious cycle where you need to do the just caring about tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for all the hugs. And River Dusty makes an interesting point and has, I think for musicians, and I've said this before, Twitch is not just digital busking. So you treat any money you earn the same way you would when you're busking. It comes with no obligations and isn't really expected.
Yeah, I can totally get behind that as well. I definitely think that's a good way to kind of to put it. There is like digital busking, and I've seen that Dusty's also put, but always appreciated. It's very much a thing of it's always really appreciated, but then every day is different. So
I assume it means it comes with it is very appreciated, obviously. And it doesn't mean that, okay, I appreciate you, therefore I have to do this thing. It just means I appreciate you, I appreciate your appreciation of what I did. And that makes it more valuable, because ultimately we do these, I don't want to speak for you, but I think it's the same for you. Like, I make games, I talk, I do all these things, because ultimately what I've realized over the past year is that human connection, that's the thing that matters. And I love learning from you. I love like right now, you personally, Jenem, and also everyone in chat. Sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way. But also I love kind of the ability to kind of go over these things. But I think for me, the most important thing is that human connection, where if I play a game, I want to be, if I'm not playing it with someone else, I want other people to be enjoying it, and I'm kind of connected to them in a way, because, hey, someone in Japan played my game, I'm assuming, because there's a bunch of Japanese copies of my game sold. I would assume that they're being played, I hope. I mean, it would be pretty devastating to hear, oh yeah, we sold 50,000 copies and none of them got played. How demoralizing would that be? And that's the thing, like, yes, the money is nice. Yes, I care about the royalties, and honestly, parts of me is like, yeah, give me money, help me kind of just not have to worry about that. And Yogi is honestly like that right now for me, like my first game. But when someone sends an image of they've enjoyed that game, when I've seen like a review of it in a language that I don't understand, even though I can't understand the language, it's like that connection, because it's not, I facilitated that fun, do you know what I mean? And I feel connected to them. Would you agree that it's all about human connection?
Definitely. I think that's what drew me as well to music in the first place, and unconsciously subconsciously maybe when I was younger, is the connection side, the human connection, meeting people from all backgrounds, like having that conversation where we could speak totally different languages, but there's a song playing and we're both dancing, like, or like, especially with, I find with actual like busking, that like kids and stuff, where you see like a young kid dancing, they're probably not understanding what's going on, but they're just hearing that music and they dance, and then that, even just the little things, connecting with literally anyone from all walks of life, is what I think it's all about. And then Twitch just amplifies that more, and kind of on a year where the human connection face to face has really been lost, it's kind of brought that back, which has been very, very valuable.
So we've got some shout outs to Patreon and comparisons to paying money for Twitch sub versus concert tickets. And yeah, let's go back to why we create. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So this was the brilliant thing we said at the start, and I copy pasted some of the questions that I kind of typed out this morning. Yeah, do you feel like your stuff has to be heard or experienced by someone else? Or can it be enough to just create and practice the craft?
I definitely don't think, well, I think if nothing was ever heard that I was creating, would that be enough? Probably not, and that's just because this is, well, I don't think it would be enough, because this is entirely like, because it's work, but it's also enjoyment. It's like, it's everything. It's like basically everything I do mostly is music. So that would feel, and creating things. So it would feel like I'm just making things and it's going nowhere. And like, if I think about any other line of work, people they're not necessarily excited about the things they create or are doing, but other people are taking value in that. So I feel like when creativity is also a job, then that's where, again, it can come back to, that's where I feel the need to share. But then at the same time, I've got thousands of songs or song ideas that no one will probably ever hear, and I don't feel the need for all of them to be heard, or for everything that's created to be heard. And sometimes actually there's certain things that I feel like you'd create, or as speaking from personal experience, that I've created that are just purely an emotional release, or a moment in time that I wanted to capture, but that I don't want anyone to hear, because they're maybe too personal, or they're not ideas that I think are ones that I want to share with the world. So I feel like there's a lot of sort of, I guess, decision making as to what to share, and what elements of creativity you want to share.
I totally. Oh, and it's good to kind of actually see your face, River Dusty, who's changed their profile pic. And lots of shout outs for tins that, all those Japanese people might have just bought Yogi for the tin. It's like, we don't like games, but we just want a tin. Oh my gosh, look at this green and yellow tin. Do you, like, talking about songs, I've got one song that I wrote a while back that was about the time when I was traveling from Kopipi to Monkey Island. And Monkey Island, by the way, is an actual place. And I've got one song that's a wee bit about that. One song that's basically just an angry shouting at, and it's done in jest, but there are certain words in it that I'm not proud of. And I'm like, people listening to that who don't understand that we had this fake rivalry, like Ryan Estrada and I decided ages ago we were going to be fake nemesis. And then, but Ryan didn't put any of the work into being a nemesis. And I was being public and kind of calling them this like horrible name online. Like, and I thought like it was a really good joke. Like they were in on it. And then I realized after maybe a year or so that actually it wasn't. And I know that sounds really slow to catch on, but this was a couple of decades ago. Anyway, so it's like I'm not going to sing that song, not because I'm ashamed of it, but because if I sing something right now, it kind of suggests that I agree with it. Do you have anything like that where a song is a moment of time and you're like, I don't agree with that anymore, I'm not going to sing that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that happens fairly, well, not fairly often, but definitely has happened several times where it would be like, and it comes, I guess, back to a little bit more kind of writing as a release. So, especially if it's an angry rant, which occasionally, I don't feel like I do that too often, but when I do, those songs are definitely just for the shelf. Like, there is an angry moment. Maybe occasionally they're not, if they're kind of a bit more generalized, but most of the time, if it's very specific, it's a shelve it, leave it be as a moment in time. But yeah, I do think it's like, I think it's also because often when you're releasing songs, it's like not just releasing songs, it's releasing songs under an artist name, and again, an image, a role, a kind of, a thing that you've built up as this is what I'm representing and want to represent as well. You can be in control of that and change that at any point, but this is what the message I want to give to the world, and hopefully, and then find people who resonate with that message. So I think there's a choice there as well in choosing which of those songs you've created actually fit with the message that you want to portray. And like I say, it can change at any point. So I'm working on the next batch of songs, and they're a bit more lovey-dovey, if you like, but they're still with the kind of other maybe messages that I tend to want to portray in music, and putting those out there of more positive.
Have you heard of Roger Von Eyck, who wrote A Kick in the Seat of the Pants and A Whack on the Side of the Head?
I have not, but that sounds great.
So these are not books about physically assaulting people. These are books about creativity. And the sequel, Kick in the Seats of the Pants, which I'm kind of rereading, is about how, yes, we've got this explorer who's going out and grabbing all these ideas, someone who's got to do the work, the artist, and then the person who's got to actually bring it to fruition. And also there's a judge who's got to say, is this idea actually any good? And I think that's the thing. When you talk about, yes, some of these are just for the shelf, I mean, for sure, going back to what Dusty said, yeah, some things just for catharsis, as you said. And Alex says, if you've got a double album, you might get the same number of great songs as on a normal-sized album. So it feels like part of being a creator is ultimately in not just saying these are great, but these fit together. These are great for this purpose. Like, if I want to make an album that's a wide range of styles, then fair enough. If like MC Honky, I Am the Messiah, by, if you know that one.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite albums, like that mixture of exercise music, kind of meditation, orchestral stuff, rap, all sorts of stuff. But then you've got, even within that, if you suddenly had, just one song that was a hard house song, or like, but yeah, it needs to fit a vision, and you need to, and you need to be able to tell your audience, because I hate the word marketing, but like the label that you get, the name that you give the album, kind of being able to tell the people this is what it's about, this is what this experience is going to be before you actually deliver this experience. Like being able to work out in your own mind, what is this experience? Like whether it's a game or whether it's a song, why should people engage in this? What is the core value? And being able to communicate that so people don't have to listen to everything to discover it, because frankly, people don't have time. How do you kind of deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. It says, I think it comes down to why do people listen to what you're creating? Like we're creating stuff, but why is anyone listening to it in the first place? And I think there's different reasons why people listen to music. It's like just for pure enjoyment, to resonate with a message or a sentiment, so that they can kind of either, if they want to feel sad, maybe they'd listen to, or if not, they want to feel sad. But if you are feeling sad, you might listen to sad music because that's, going with what you're feeling right now, and then that actually acts as a way to feel better. Or you might be feeling really happy and you want to listen to just something that makes you want to dance around. Like I feel like, so sort of the emotional side of things is another one. And then I guess people listening to music because they like more of the person behind the music, which is maybe one that less maybe a reason, but I definitely know some people who are like, I love this artist, and it doesn't matter what they release, it could be something completely different. They're just idolizing the artist themselves, which is always an interesting one to me. But yeah, those are kind of the sort of three things I think to think about. And I think when there's so much music going out in the world, it's like, what is it that you want to say? Because anyone could release music nowadays, pretty much. Like, maybe not anyone, that's a bit sweeping generalization, but for the majority of people, there is a way to get your music out there.
Pretty much anyone listening to this could listen to music probably.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to music and actually releasing wise.
I say listen? I meant release. Yeah, probably anyone listening to this probably has a good enough internet connection that you could upload something. There are free places to upload stuff, and if you've got a microphone, it might not be great. You might not be able to produce it at a quality that you are happy with, but you could, if you wanted, sing something and upload it somewhere. If you've got a mobile phone, boom, you could put something on Twitter right now, like just a 1 minute video of you singing.
Exactly. That's the point, really, is that it's become so kind of saturated, as a big word for the market, as that they like to use, I think, thrown around a lot. But yeah, like oversaturated in that so many songs are out there. And it's like, I think often I find myself more and more nowadays trying not to overthink things, because I think also that's a bit of a dangerous slippery slope. Sometimes it's better to just do and let the rest happen. But there is a sense of, if I'm releasing something, is there any point in just releasing a song for the sake of it, or is it like, actually this could add value to someone else's life? Because if it's can't, then, or not that it can't, but it's less, if it's less with an intention of doing that, then I can just create the song for me, like, and just make it. But actually, are you creating a song that you can then hopefully will affect someone else's life? It's like with Laughing Clouds, when I put that one out, it's a song that I wrote, I just really enjoyed it, but I also thought, actually, at the moment, everything's a little bit kind of difficult for a lot of people in the world. The situation we found ourselves in isn't the best. So here's a bit of positivity, just something a bit fun that I feel like I want to share. And like the next project I'm working on right now, which is, like I say, is more kind of where I'm at in life and more kind of love songs, if you like. It's going to be called Back to Basics. And it's really all about that basic needs in life of just love and enjoyment, and kind of putting that into a song and into the project of really just something fun, a bit more dancey, but also hopefully will be one that people can resonate with still too.
Like we all want some sort of connections, and I 100% agree with Alex. The barrier has never been lower. It's only going to continue to lower. And that's the thing. Like, everyone has this desire to create, and there are finite numbers of people listening, in a sense. And it feels like becoming popularity isn't just about the quality of what you do. Sure, that's a certain part of it, but it does then becoming all about the marketing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
marketing's always a big part of releasing as well. Like, you can't, like, I've definitely found in the past, I've thrown music out there where I've been proud of the music, but actually, if you don't actually do anything to promote it, no one knows it's there. It's like, you can put a video up, but if you don't tell anyone it's there, apart from the however many people you've already got there, no one new is going to find that, or very few new people. Maybe someone will share it with their friend, but you've got to actually try and shout about it a little bit. Otherwise, how are people meant to kind of find it? It's like amongst all the other stuff.
Like with Twitch, there's definitely the risk of oversharing, if you know what I mean. I mean, like, I can feel like I enjoy it. It can be addictive, and it can get when you start doing solo things that you normally do solo, but then you do them on Twitch. Like, let's say you try playing a video game on Twitch. It's like, why am I doing this? Is it just because I really need the audience? And like, what value am I really bringing to them? And at this point, is it like, am I really there's kind of a risk of just oversharing and always being there because you want to be there, and it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, the constant sense of throwing stuff out. And yeah, Dusty has a twofold question. Are you creative for the sake of creativity, or is there a desire to become popular? And if so, how popular is too popular?
Ooh, this is a good question. A very loaded question in terms of there's so many sort of. I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Do you want to go first, or shall I give you a 10 second? I'm going to.
I don't mind. Go for it. If you've got go for
my
it.
hot
Yeah.
take. Yes, I want to be popular. Yes, I need validation from other people. I'm a human, and frankly, I need. All humans need validation. I might need validation a little more than most humans. Not going to deny that. But yes, there is a joy of creativity, but that alone, if no one was ever seeing my stuff, I would probably just be depressed. I have some need, some desire to be paid attention to. And if I don't have that, then I would, if I don't have at least it could be just someone across the table, you know, a few people in a room. It doesn't have to be like a wide global audience. But for me, yeah, unless there's negative attention, I don't see popularity being too popular. And what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I don't want to become popular with my music. Like, that would be what I do, because that would just be a total lie. Like, it's true that creating music and stuff, I'm not just doing it just to create, because if I was doing that, then I wouldn't be sharing it in the first place, probably, or I might be sharing it, but I would just be probably creating and churning it out rather than putting any thought behind it. Whereas trying, you know, want to kind of actually get it out there to as many people as possible. And yeah, maybe it is a kind of slight ego kind of generated validation thing. Like you say, it's about kind of getting that validation and needing that from others. But I also think it's just from a young age, I knew I wanted to be a musician. And coming back to, I guess, being able to earn your way, like if all I did was entirely writing, producing, releasing music, and that was the only thing I needed to do to make a comfortable income and one that allowed me to do anything I wanted in life, then that's also the goal. And to do that, popularity comes with that, because as in to be able to actually get to that point, you need to be popular, because actually the industry these days, there's several ways you're gonna, you know, there's income streams and stuff, but you need to have the fan base there to do that. So yeah, I think that's what I would say on the matter. And I don't think there's a too popular either. I think that it's one of those things that if you're aiming to reach as many people as possible, then if that snowballs to the point where that's massive, then that's, you know, that's the way it is. It's not like I don't want to get beyond this point. I think some people might see it that way, but I don't see it as like there's this cut off point. Or there's not.
I mean, I guess the associated problem is the magnifying glass held up to your life. It's like, oh, Jenem went out with this person. Now let's all, and then they start, you know, interviewing all your family, trying to dredge up everything you've ever done, and you know.
Yeah, I understand that too, and not being in that position at the moment, it's like impossible to actually speak on that. You know, like you can't exactly say, oh, I know what I'm gonna feel if that was the case. But I think partly it's like, can you start, like, it's about mindset too, and that like there's music, like my personal people might not be a massive fan, but I love Ed Sheeran, and it's like, I mean, I don't follow like tabloid news. I'm not like searching, you know, for all the gossip on an artist or anything like that. But I don't generally see like headlines coming up, like, I mean, a few, but not like all the time. It's not like Ed Sheeran's doing this, Ed Sheeran's doing this. But yeah, at the same time, he's massive, and he's, you know, written, you know, loads of massive songs, and it's like, it's just about finding your way, navigating through those kind of things, I think.
I mean, I'm sure that there are corners of celebrity magazines, although to be fair, it might be more about I don't know what kind of celebrities they write about in those celebrity magazines, but you know what I mean, like those kind of things that are like really, what anyway. But
I mean, I think it's like everyone's got an opinion always on what you do in life. Like, that's just the way we are as humans. We like, well, even,
yeah,
or
you
there
have to be
are
willing to
people who,
listen to others, but then say, "Hey, I'm not going to listen to you."
yeah, it's like allowing people can have an opinion, even on this level. Like, you get people where people are going to say things about, I find on YouTube, I find it quite amusing, to be honest. I'll get a load of people you never met, just like come on a video, put something like, my ears are bleeding, and I'm like, cool. Like, that's you, you know, like, everyone's got an opinion, everyone wants to find some reason, they're going to say something. It's just being like, that's the way it is, you know, you have your opinion, it's fine. And trying to learn not to kind of let that affect you, which is easier said than done, I guess, in certain circumstances, especially if you've got people there with a camera outside your house at 3 a.m, like some of these, you know, the celebrities, or as they are considered, or bigger artists have.
It's like that. If you have some positive attention already, then I think that negative attention is much easier to write off and say, yeah, to heck with you. Like, I'm just not going to care about what you say. You're clearly an angry person who's just, why are you feeling the need to do this, to spread this negativity? It's like, listen to a couple of seconds. If you don't like it, frankly, move on. And
no, go for it.
Yeah, and Alex says, if your ears are bleeding, then turn your speakers down.
also true. But I think also it comes down to, like, I guess this is a question of self-worth and self-validation. If you're like, I'm content with where I am in life and what I'm doing, then those opinions are going to affect you less than if you're feeling a bit uncertain at that time. So I think it's kind of one of those where, if you can get to the point where you're really confident, if you're putting out stuff in the world that you're not 100% confident with, then you can let those criticisms affect you way more than if you're just like, at the end of the day, I'm happy with this, and that's, you know, I'm confident in the way that I'm doing things.
No, I like that. Like, we have, I mean, it can definitely differ even day to day or project to project. Maybe try something new with your music and you really need this validation. And yeah, there was a quick question about how you go about marketing, which feels like this is something we could talk about for days. But if you wanted to just quick 2 tips, or what, something that you've done that's been particularly successful, or some surprise that you've had.
I think being as creative as you are in creating music, as actually promoting the music is one thing. So finding there's endless outlets out there to actually promote nowadays. And so just trying to do things in a way that's authentic to the way you are, but doing it differently, whatever that be. I can't necessarily say here's one thing. I still feel like I'm a long way on the marketing journey in terms of how to actually successfully, you know, get there with that. I always, for a long time, for me, it was in my head, it was play as many shows as you can and do things that way. And then the pandemic really kind of has, again, halted that a lot. So it's been a case of, actually, you need to really reconsider these things. And I think also, I'm not a particular lover of social media, but I've had to become more of a lover of social media. Like, if I didn't do music as the thing that I did, like if I did again go like an office job, for example, I just probably wouldn't have socials. I just wouldn't really bother with them, because from a personal standpoint, I'm really not that bothered. I like to talk to people and have that connection, but I would find other ways to do that. Like, I'd still maybe be involved on Twitch channels and stuff, but I wouldn't just have like Instagram, for example. But I think learning to love the tools that are there for you to use, and also like not getting, I do this sometimes too, but not making excuses and being lazy with content. So I'm still learning on that too, but it's like, you can get towards the end of the day and I'm like, I haven't got edited a photo. Why have I not done that? Like, that should have happened today. So holding yourself accountable and then really putting a strategy into place with social media. And I'm really making a push for that at the moment, so that I can also up my game there. But those are a few little things.
No, it makes so lots of sense. And yeah, if you're creative and you're wanting to be heard, as you say, you have to be creative not just in the creations, but also in the marketing, and that's in telling people what they can expect and marketing yourself. And I hate this, but anyway, let's
Oh,
talk about.
one more point. One more point. Actually, I just want to throw in on marketing because I think this is really important. And I was reading some stuff about this recently, and it's definitely the way I've had to change my mindset. I think when I was younger, I used to think marketing was all about like just throwing a message at people and hoping that they resonate and they want to it sticks with them. Now I've realized it's so much more than that, and it actually means that marketing isn't just marketing. It goes beyond that, but it's all about building community. Like that's what creativity, like sharing that creativity, like with board games, you're building a community of people who want to get involved in that way of thinking, want to play along. With music, it's finding people who hold similar values or at least resonate with the values you've got and that you're wanting to share. So it's not about throwing a message at people, it's about building that message with people. I think that's the
I really like
important one with
that.
marketing.
And I definitely yeah, sometimes you need to get over your little, oh, do people want to hear about this? Because like next week I'm actually going to shorten my morning streams, but I'm going to start off some kind of board game playthroughs or board game arena playthroughs in the afternoon, so kind of to finish off my day. And I'm doing 12 streams in 1 week, and that's going to be my what I'm doing for like the next 2 or 3 weeks, seeing how that goes. And like I'm not going to share every stream in like all the Facebook groups. That would be like, what the hell, that would be like posting but for sure, when there's a big thing like, okay, here's like the typography contest, I want to get people involved in LDEC typography. That's like a thing I'm really passionate about. I want to get artists to celebrate the fact that typography matters. Do you know what I mean? Like you can look at a board game and think, oh, that's just letters, but no, the graphical complexity of that, where are their serifs, how exactly do the serifs bend? Look, I'm not wanting to overstate it, but there is artistry in that, and especially if you mix some sorts of theme, and I would love to kind of raise awareness of that and build that up. And obviously that's for the L deck, where right now I'm doing different styles of deck, but yeah, like I love the notion of building something with other people and being like, hey, this is what, and also being ready to reach out. Talking about word games such as the L deck, and Alex says marketing doesn't have to mean your only intention is to sell stuff to people. Yeah, like content marketing, like with the L deck, I try to get people playing along with the Wii games on Twitter, where 3 times a week there's a wee thing that says, hey, can you think of a word that matches these criteria or whatever? Let's talk about, I listen to Stream Elements and have my last stretch of the stream. Can you tell me how your word games inspiring songs went?
Yeah, so when we were talking about the stream beforehand, and you mentioned to me that you would have word games ever inspired a song, I was thinking about it and I was like, maybe not particularly, so I thought I'd give it a go. So if anyone who didn't see that stream, wasn't a part of it, on Friday on my channel, I do a songwriting stream where we write on the stream. I mentioned that a few times already today, but we did a particular round where I put a boggle board up. I shook the boggle board first, took 2 pictures, and the first one was just an example one, and then the second one, put it on the screen, and I hadn't looked into it beforehand, so there was no kind of sort of cheating, if you like. There was no words that I knew were in there, or apart from taking the very quick picture and literally just cropping it. I hadn't looked at the picture at all. Threw it on the screen and got people to give me words that they could see within the boggle board, and then we turned that into a song. And yeah, it worked surprisingly well. I found it a lot of fun. Mostly I was just probably really excited about the fact there was boggle on the screen as well. It's like combining my 2 favorite things, music and a word game. So that was great. And it worked well. I think the challenges come when you're doing something like that, in that there was no sort of, so when I write in general, if I give people a theme and we're doing something more improvised in that way, there's still a theme, and from that theme normally I can generate a quick idea of where the chorus would go. So like maybe it's going to be about this sort of topic, Not always in that way, but just maybe a little bit more of a hint of it's probably going to vaguely be somewhat related to this. Whereas when you're creating off a word game, so with Boggle, there were loads of words and they were all great words, but they didn't necessarily connect to a specific theme. So and trying to do that quickly, especially. So if it was more of a kind of very slow write, you could kind of piece together, okay, these words are going to be specifically what the chorus is about. Whereas, and then the rest we can fit into the verses. Whereas for this, it was more, let's just start with the words that I can see in front of me appearing on the screen and turn them into the verse. And then, okay, here's a word that someone's put now that probably works for the chorus. But it was less sort of developed on the theme and more developed just on the words that were appearing. So that presented
it felt like it was more of a surprise and more improvisational.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Very much an improvising. But I think it was a lot of fun and a really good challenge as well to actually see whether that could then turn into more of a structured song as well, rather than just kind of lines that form words. Like, could it actually be a song rather than more just the lyric?
Hello to Slivers. It is lovely to have you. So Jenem is a musician for anyone who's just joined in the last few minutes, and we are talking about music and creativity. And I was going to go to the more theoretical parts of this, where I was, thinking about the randomness of a game, that the deal of the cards or the roll of the dice, because games are all about providing surprising setups, that seems to tie directly into what you want with improvisation. Firstly, let's go very practical. After that, I saw the start of something where I think it was words starting with FO and T something else.
Maybe two or something. I can never remember what happened.
Anyway, but was that just off the spur of your head, or had you?
As in that round, had I thought about it, or was it just...
had you decided, okay, this is what we're going to do? We're going to start off with a couple of ways to start off words, and I'm going to go with fool and force and. Was it definitely FO? Was that anyway?
Yeah, I think it might have been FO this week. It was maybe TO. But yeah, so basically to the yes and no. So beforehand I tried to make sure I had the show somewhat planned. So I was just normally just get a theme, whatever that theme be. And then for that one I just had, I put the command in for the words command so people knew what I was asking them for. And then just put the start words. But I didn't think, apart from thinking, okay, here's a few words that start with that, so I knew there were words that started with that. So it wasn't like I'm asking people to start a word with two letters that there are probably no words for, or very few. I was trying to make it as open as possible so that people had then more chance to kind of come up with things, but then keeping it super open so then whatever gets suggested is what's going in the song, rather than me kind of preempting what that's going to be.
I mean, I wonder if there's value in having all of these things not predetermined, but like random generation, so that it's more random, if you know what I mean. Because even with the FO, if you're wanting to check, okay, there's at least a few words that you think of straight away, that's going to then maybe push your own mind down a particular rhythm. Or if you think of, I can think of fool and folly and foe, then instantly maybe you're thinking of some adventure type thing, and maybe you're thinking of a 6/8 time, because that kind of feels more like a horsey adventure. I don't know. Is it just me who thinks 6/8 is kind of old-timey adventure?
No, I could definitely see that as well. But I don't think, I didn't really give it, if I'm honest. Normally for Friday, I've got 2 minutes until the show, and I'm I need some themes or whatever. So it's a super quick, change the words, get the theme, because my time management skills need improvement.
Great.
But because
honestly,
of that
probably helps you.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's that much kind of thought. But I could totally see, if it was even more random, how it could be even more the next level of that kind of there's no theme, but still at the same time I think there's still quite a lot of randomness and improv that it's really involved there.
Now, I want to. Obviously, you can make songs about games. That's been done by me and by many others. You can have a game state of a competitive game like Boggle, like you did, to inspire songs. But my question here is, do you think there's the potential? I actually wrote this question quite badly. Let me actually reword it. Do you think there's the potential for you to have a competitive game where, as a course of the playing of the game, you're making a song together? Because there are things like Rory's story cubes where together you're creating a story. And that's the point. It's like Phrasal, it's just about people throwing things in. And then do you think that there's the potential for a game where it's a competitive game, but then you collaboratively make a song together?
Yeah, I think there's. I don't see why that wouldn't be possible, because I've never fully tried it, so I can't say that it's something that I'd be like, this is definitely going to work, because I haven't tried it. But at the same time, I don't see why there wouldn't be, because I think the only question there is, can it actually be competitive if you're kind of starting to write a song? Can you actually have your mind on like winning? Well, it depends whether competitive as in winning or competitive as in like what level of competition are we getting at? So
I mean, like, it could be that people are throwing in different words, and at the end you want to have the most words that you put into the middle. It could be something as simple as that.
So it's kind of like collaboration, but with a competitive edge of I wrote a little bit more, maybe kind of sort of with. I don't know. I think it's definitely possible. Although I think it would be more. I don't think it would be a fully competitive thing as much as like I think the whole nature of collaboration in general is like the opposite of competition, because if you're going to be the best collaborator you can be, you're trying not to be competitive. You're trying to do the opposite and give as much sort of space to the creation as needed. Like some days you might write a song with someone and write 2 words, and the next day you might write the whole song bar 2 words, and that's fine, because that's creating the best possible song that you can. And it's actually about, if inspiring great songs, you're focused on the creation of the song itself, then it's understanding that balance.
Your hypothesis is that any truly competitive elements is just going to reduce the quality of the final creative parts.
I think if you were writing as you were going, yeah, probably. It could, I guess it aids kind of the speed, but it wouldn't, so it would help you kind of with the speed of the generation of the ideas, but would it actually help the result of the ideas?
Like maybe the competitive part is like just the first person to throw down a line, and then it's just to get you to be really fast. And I think it would be an interesting thing to brainstorm if you wanted to do that sometime. But because this is meant to be a board game show, let's talk about why you love word games. You love word games, playing with words, and haven't heard much else, but talk about some of your favorite games and what makes a great game. What qualities does a great game have to have for you?
Okay, so simplicity is the first one, because anything that's too complex, I'm a person who I've learned over the years waiting around for gigs and stuff, patience, but definitely in my younger days, I just want to get straight to something. Like if I'm doing something, I want to get straight into it. So if it's a game that's going to take an hour to learn how to play, doesn't mean it's not a great game and that I won't enjoy it, but it's probably not going to be one of my favorites straight away, because it's just a bit slower to learn. So I like something that's quite simple with the rules. And there is also that something that's like very easy for everyone to get involved with, so that it's a game I can beat my younger cousin at and then beat my mum at. So competition wise, I want to also winning, that there's a winning factor just for my purely selfish competitive nature, satisfaction there.
So you're telling me that you couldn't really get behind a cooperative game?
I could. I'm not saying I couldn't get behind it. I think okay, so this is now gonna. I don't know how this is gonna come across, but basically, if I think about my week and I'm like thinking about time in a week, I do have time to play games that aren't just for the purpose of winning. That are just like, oh, we'll just play for fun. But most of my life, I'm thinking about music and what's coming next and job lists and all this. So if it's downtime, it's like arguably should be more like less competitive and more just about chilling and doing a cooperative game. But actually, the
Me,
opposite. It's just like I play to win.
I wonder if the competition within the game allows you to be less competitive and kind of, okay, I'm getting my ego out of the way within the competition of the game, so that when it comes to creation, I've got a little bit less ego invested into my creativity.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe like I could totally get behind that being part of it, and I do think as well it's just the way that maybe it's also because I've not really played many games that aren't like. I think that's probably a big part of it, to be honest. If I think about the games I've got on like the shelf, it's like I don't really have many games, if any, games that are more like I played like card games where you're team based games and stuff like that, but less kind of there's no this is the way to win at the
Even
game.
within a team-based game, it's still our team versus that team.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even know if I've potentially it's just a case of actually just not played any games that aren't that way. Limited game knowledge is what I'm going to blame it on.
But that's totally fair. So speaking of specific titles, so we've already had Boggle and Bananagrams. Are there any others that you can say, yes, I enjoy that game?
Oh, loads. I mean, if you're going on the kind of well-known classics, Scrabble's going to be in the mix because, you know, another classic word-based one. Rummikub and then Rummikub Word, because they did like a word edition, which was really cool.
I am unfamiliar with Rummikub words. I will have to check that out.
So it's basically just is Rummikub, but then you obviously got word tiles and you just make words from them. So similar sort of premise in some ways, I guess. Pictionary, Dusty put that in the chat, and I saw that. I actually do love Pictionary. Yeah, big fan of drawing games because my drawing skills are atrocious. So it's good fun normally, and normally the people I play them with are also equally bad. So it's a fun one.
And is this true that you don't actually play any playing cards games?
I mean, I did write a song about a pack of playing cards, yeah, but no, I do play card games. I've not played card games in a long time, and I think, to be honest, I play card games more when I'm in bigger social settings. I feel like when there's more like groups of 3 or 4 people, and I've not been in many group social settings for the past however many months, so that's kind of not really been a thing. But
yeah,
thinking of, there was a couple of, what was the other game I was going to mention? There was another one, but now it's gone from my head. I've got one called, it's another word one though, but it's called Get a Letter. It's not a big game, but it's just got the alphabet, and then you get a prompt card which would say like foods, and the letters flick to either side, and you've got to decide, like you've just got to say food, so you could be like apple, banana, and you've got to get as many of the letters as you can on your side.
That sounds like Word on the Street.
It's probably a rip-off of a game that already exists, to be honest.
But
it could well be another game.
It might also be an alternate name. But that sounds cool. And before we finish up, I would like to turn back to music and say, what are some plans for the future? Do you have aspirations for where you'd like to be in 10 years' time, or even like this time next year? Do you have what firstly, what's your hopes way off into the future, and yeah, secondly, what are your short-term things on the horizon?
All right, I'm gonna flip that around and do it the other way around, if that's okay, because I feel like I can tell you them more succinctly. So my short-term goals right now is finish the EP, figure out if I'm gonna self-produce or not self-produce the EP, which that's like the very short-term goal, and then hopefully have that come out later in the year. So just finishing work on that really, from that side of things, and then keep building on everything I'm doing musically aside from that in the short term. So just putting out more more and better like content on YouTube. So the videos that I'm producing, making them as good as possible, keeping working on songwriting and getting that as good as it possibly can be. Working with as many people as I can do, and people who really challenge me to be a better writer. That's a big one because I think that's
Nice.
a fun like. It's fun to work with everyone, but obviously, like the more
And
the
I
people
hear
challenge me,
that
the
Ed
better.
Sheeran would be your dream gig. Like,
Yeah,
for
I think
you and Ed Sheeran to write some songs together.
definitely that would be like. I mean, that's something that for the future plans, that one's on the list. I mean, it's like, yeah, I think it would be really fun to write with Ed Sheeran. But I mean, in general, future plans, something I've always said is that I want to play at Manchester Arena. It's like a hometown gig because that's somewhere I went growing up to see some great gigs. Also to have a number one as a writer, as a songwriter, whether I'm singing that or not. Be a published songwriter and travel the world with my music and hopefully change some lives with it too and bring value to people with what I do. So it's just small dreams and plans,
No, I love that kind of way you tied it all up with bringing value to people, because that's what it's all about, whether it's games, music, visual art, dance, anything. And yeah, when you say published songwriter, I assume you mean like physically mass-produced media is basically what you mean by that.
Well, so within so you've got like record labels and then publishers, but to have like a contract with the music publisher, so like one of the big or small, but a music publisher, so that when you're releasing, it's like it's under your name, but their name too, if that makes any sense.
Amused by this.
The building work continues.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's brilliant.
Okay, so we've got one final question. Do you enter songwriting contests, bringing the game competition together and the songwriting together? Have you done that? Have you considered it?
It is a very good question, and I have considered it, yes. I've not entered many, like the odd one, but not really just local kind of things. Nothing big. I would enter some. I can understand why they do this, but any that have like a pretty hefty fee to enter, I'm a little more I'm pretty skeptical of. And most of them aren't a lot, but it's still that thing of paying to enter a competition is like, should I not? I think I'm just a bit on the fence, but at the same time, some of the big ones, like the more international ones, you have to pay it's like $20 or something, where it's not loads, but it's also like, do I pay? Do I not? So that's why I've not entered as many.
I kind of get the reluctance because it's like, but yeah, like in the board game world, when there's a board game design, that money is often like just, there is infrastructure involved. Some of that money comes back to the winner, and some of it is because, actually playing a lot of these things takes time, and some of the judges might just be volunteering their time, but then maybe at the final stages where it's okay to shorts list and then everyone actually gets together to play all this stuff, they get some money for that, which I think I don't know, I think it makes sense to have some thing that covers the cost if it's like £10 or £20. And Alex makes some good points. If you're actually getting feedback from the judges, then fair enough. But if it's just like, oh, throw us your music and maybe you'll get some, maybe you'll win, and we don't describe the process at all, then that's not cool.
Yeah, it depends on the contest. I feel like I should probably enter a few more things like that. It's just partly down to time as well, of like finding these things and like spending the time actively searching for all those things where it's maybe not at the forefront. But it's a good point. Thank you for mentioning songwriting contests as a good thing to remember.
So I'm going to try and wrap up. The building work that you can probably hear would be even louder if I was on the other side of the building where my room is. So, yeah. But I forgot to, in the scramble to get a very long wire out into the garden. This is, I forgot to bring my notebook with me this morning, so I've not made notes for all the recap and wrap up. But we did definitely talk about life and early memories and light bulbs falling on heads. And we talked about pandas and koalas both being amazing. We talked about quickly about word games. We talked about not really coming from a musical family, but falling in love with music anyway, being inspired to do a charity song for the big issue, which is fantastic. We had a very philosophical discussion about improvisation and games and streaming and games and life and games and what is a game. We talked about UBI and creativity and being pushed into doing something and how having to do something can kind of lock up your creativity. We talked about the nature of creation, whether it is innately human. And yes, if nothing was ever heard, then Jenem would be a bit sad. But there are sorts of, maybe some of them are cathartic, some of them are a bit ranty, some of them are just not very good. So Jenem might not show them all. And yeah, we talked about loving Ed Sheeran, and we talked about Pictionary and team games and maybe not playing many cooperative games. And Hanabi was mentioned as a game that you should totally check out, and I would agree with that. And actually, I can't, do you live with someone? Do you have a partner? I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I do.
Does your partner enjoy word games?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Because I was going to say afterwards, I can chat to you about, if you're willing to print and play, I will send you a print and play version of the L deck, because there's a game for it called Couple, which is for a couple. It was designed with a couple in mind, and you don't have to be a couple to play the game. You just have to be two people who are willing to talk, sit next to each other, and play a game together. But that's where
it's a big ask, that one.
Yeah, it's like, you must be in a romantic relationship before you play this game. And yeah, anyway. But it's just a cooperative game where you're talking to each other, helping each other make the longest words possible. We talked about Boggle, inspiring games, about the nature of randomness and Boggle inspiring music, the nature of randomness and competition and all those sorts of things. And yeah, then I started recapping and wrapping up, and then I mentioned, and that brings me to this current moment right now. And yeah, just to catch up, Alex says, one day I'd love to write a proper cheesy song for Eurovision.
I can so get behind that. Eurovision, just one more shout out for the fact Eurovision is amazing. I mention it on most streams because it's the best. So 100%. Let's collab. I want to do that.
Dusty has a morbid vision for the end of the stream. I agree. Welcome back, aliens. And maybe that's against. I mean, I don't think I'd be worried about the terms of service if I were getting crushed by. I mean, there's actually nothing up here. It's all on the other side. No, I'm not indestructible. So that is the end of the stream. If you want to check me out, I am stuffbabez.com, stuffbabez.bigcards.com, twitter.com/stuffbabez, instagram.com/stuffbabez, twitch.tv/stuffbabez. You can basically search for Stuffbabez everywhere. YouTube has the old episodes, and please follow the Discord for my Discord, where you can chat about things. And if you're on Twitter, also follow the LDEC, which I will actually paste into the comments. That's the one thing. And as for you, Jenem, I am going to put it up on screen, but where do you like to be found?
Everywhere, really. So any of those places you put there, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, which will at some point have a much catchier name than UCM, etc., with the slash and then the awful URL.
That could be your task for today.
It could be indeed. I think it should be, really, shouldn't it? And all those many places, yeah, you can find me on any of those. Feel free to come say hi there and chat. I've also got a Discord as well, which I don't think I sent you, but you can find it through my Twitch channel by putting !_ Discord in the chat on my channel.
Yeah, it's really cool when you've got robots to kind of dispense information. I've also thought about getting one of those link trees where it's just, hey, it's link tree that then...
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you very much, everyone. Everyone in the comments and chats has been super lovely as always. Okay, not as always, sadly, but as usual. And Jenem, you've been super lovely. And this is the final part where I ask over to you, what are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. So, is there anything that you want to share? Something that you're looking forward to doing? Something that you don't really want to do, but you feel like telling us is going to give you a sense of obligation that you really need? Yeah, anything that you want to share. Jenem, anyone in comments?
Oh, anything that I want to share? It's a good question. I mean, today I am teaching a lot, a lot, and hopefully doing
Nice.
some other musical activities in between. I'm quite excited though. Tomorrow I'm speaking on a panel for the first time, which is quite exciting. So
Oh,
talking about music and stuff, which will be fun.
cool.
So yeah, exciting things there.
Well, that does sound lovely, and I hope you're able to keep your energy levels up in between all the teaching. What am I up to today? I am ostensibly working with Chris, so we'll be chatting a wee bit. Um, yeah, see how I've got to do a thing for Rita and Alan that was mentioned yesterday that I'm kind of a bit late with. Um, I might, yeah, I really should. I really should sort out. I should upload the Patreon pictures, which I meant to do at the end of last month. So I am, what is it, a week late or so. But I'm going to try and make that a new thing on my Patreon. It's kind of 1 month I will draw the pictures, the next month I'll upload them and see what one's the favourite. And then it's kind of going to be a human generated based on what was the favourite picture. Be like, okay, now I'm going to spawn 9 more things vaguely based on this thing. And if
Sounds
you want to
exciting.
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it evolves in the long term, like as the years go on, because like will the cats always continue to be more popular, or will it be the things that aren't so catsish, or will it be will and it's kind of just a way to see are the things that I think are my favorites also the things that's other it's kind of an experiment, like a social experiment. That's what I'm trying to do. But if you want to find out my next streams, then please check out this link, stuffbybeds.com/streams. This will redirect you to a Google Calendar, and you can also see it on my Twitch if you just want to, if you're on Twitch. But let me actually let you know. Tomorrow I am discussing translation in board games with Maisie over in Japan. Friday is my Friendly Friday forum. Anyone who wants, who I trust, is able to join me on camera, and we are going to chat about pronouns and board games and anything else that comes up. Saturday, I'm mentoring Dutch Yoda. Sunday, I'm actually going to be playing a game now every Sunday. I've decided that's going to be my thing. I'm playing some Root. It's a digital adaptation of a well-known board game by Later Games, and yep, I'm still making my way through the tutorial of that. But Monday is discussing publishing with Uli, and then as of Tuesday, that's where I'm going to start my new afternoon streams, where every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday and Saturday, yep, as of 4 p.m., I'm going to try and play maybe something on paper, maybe playtesting something, maybe inventing something new. So I'll definitely be playing something. It might be something I've never played before. I might be making up the rules as I go along. It might be literal game design as you play kind of thing. I'm not going to put up descriptions for these. It's just going to be like 5 minutes before I'll decide what happens, but sometimes there will be a guest and we'll decide before it. Anyway, that is that. I have to catch up with all the comments again. I do apologize. Alex has to do some laundry. River has to nap. It is required. And hello, Dina. It is lovely to see you. And yep, there was indeed marketing talk very briefly. And yeah, I feel like Bez thinks marketing is a bit of a dirty word, Dina. I am not going to get into this discussion. It's way too late. I am trying to keep these at 2 hours maximum, and I'm already failing. But please feel free to share, spread the word. I am going to, if you're watching on Twitch, have a very quick look and at who I should raid. If there's anything else that people feel the need to say, then go ahead. Oh, Nerds of the West. Familiar Fry is
Yes. Oh, big fan of Fry. I mean,
okay.
whoever you feel like, but
I
I
will
just want to
go
say
with
thanks
that.
as well, though. Thank you so much for having me and asking me to
Oh,
be a part of this. It's been good fun.
and I am tapping that out. Familiar Fry. Let me just check. There's nothing weird between the two words. Cool, excellent. There isn't. And so, thank you, everyone. Please do copy paste some or all of that raid call if you're on Twitch, so we can make our presence known. And yeah, unless you have any other final words.
Thank you. Those are my words.
And thank you very much. Thank you, Slivers. Love you lots, Dina. And thank you for being here, Alex. And as always, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, Karen. Bye bye, Jenem. Bye bye, Tina. Bye bye, Aliens. Bye bye, Dusty. Bye bye, everyone. Oh, yeah. Bye bye, Alex. Thank you for putting up with it. Bye bye, everyone. Yeah. Oh. Bye bye, Dusty. Yeah. That's the end. And now we're going to sit awkwardly at each other for 5 seconds. And I'm going to just say bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye
Bye. Thanks for letting me know. And bye bye. Bye, Alex, again. This is the only reason I had you on stream, to gaze at you awkwardly.
It's alright though.
You can't be silent too long. John Cage will sue. We don't have 8 minutes. What is that piece called? Is it 8 minutes?
Or it might be 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes. No, I think it is 8 minutes.
Bye bye. Anyway, there we go.